I've used it. It also got to be used at the right. Sometimes in family life, people think that a good family, if everybody is just smiling and everybody's happy and the house is calm. If a house is quiet, that's not a family. That's a cemetery. Cemeteries are quiet and calm. Homes are not quiet and calm. Doesn't mean you have to yell. Doesn't mean you have to be unpleasant. But nature of a lot of people living in a small space means people get on each other's nerves periodically. Now, how you handle that tells a lot about you as a person. But what happens is sometimes, let's say father gets upset. I'll give you one example. I came in late last night. My Scotch tape, which is on my desk and is allowed to be used, but has to be put on my desk, wasn't there. Right? It wasn't there. Obviously, one of my, my younger daughter, I have two little, my youngest there, I have a 14-year-old and 11-year-old. Those are my babies. And, so obviously, so I said to my wife, who took, where's the Scotch tape? And I needed it last night. I came in at 11 o'clock at night. I was tired. It was a long day. And I needed to tape a couple of notes to my desk. And obviously, somebody took it, went to sleep. My wife couldn't find it, where my daughter had put it. Now, if I get upset, who's at fault? Now, I'm at fault for getting upset, right? Because I have to work on my mitos. Well, if you would work on your mitos of responsibility and putting things back, then my mitos wouldn't be tested over here, right? Now, I've explained this to my family, that you're right, I have to work on my mitos, but I'm not the only one around here who has to work on my mitos. And my family knows that mitos means your character and refined personage. And my family knows that when I get into a mood and I say, okay, guys, I am no longer working on my mitos, they know that they better watch their step because they pushed me to the limit. Now, it could be they pushed me to the limit, it could be the stock market pushed me to the limit. Something happened that I've been pushed to the limit. So it's patently unfair to blame it on one person. Here, I had a guy, I wrote a column recently on marriage, and our approach to marriage is that the majority of which you've clearly picked up from me, the onus of responsibility to make a marriage successful is on the husband. And I wrote a column and I wrote several things. So a guy calls me up and he says his wife gets upset at every little thing. So I said to him, give me an example of what you consider a little thing. So he says, okay, well, last week I forgot to pay the water bill and the company turned off the water in the house. I said to him, you may consider that to be a little thing. Your wife has to cook, bathe the children, and do laundry. She doesn't see that as a little thing. She says it's an absolute disaster. So she reacts the way one reacts to a disaster. Now you feel she's overreacting. Well, I got news for you. Had you worked on your mita of laziness and responsibility and do as you were supposed to do, she wouldn't be put in that position. Now whose fault was that? Whose fault was it? Yeah, she shouldn't overreact. But you should also not give her an excuse to overreact. Why is it her fault? She's overreacting? Maybe, and I said to the guy, I was talking to the guy on the phone, I said to the guy, I'm sure that, he's telling me all about his marriage and the problems and everything. I said, I'm sure that if I spoke to your wife, I would hear a completely different story here. A completely different story, which is true, because there's, they say there are three sides to every story. There's your side, my side, and the truth. Right? So I like to hear what she says. And in marriage, by the way, her side is usually the more accurate side. That's my experience. So husbands leave out little details like I forgot to pay the bill, and they turn on. My wife has yelled at me 3 times. In over 30 years of marriage, she's yelled at me 3 times. 3 times. I can tell you what they are. That doesn't mean that she's only Jared, hold it. That doesn't mean that she's only gotten upset with me 3 times. She's gotten upset with me many times. I've given her plenty of good reasons to be upset. But she's not a yeller, and she usually gives me a silent treatment, which is worse. Silent treatment is murder. Then I follow her around the house. Oh, please speak to me. Please, I want to hear your canary voice. Please, please, please. And you just hate to. It's like a guy said to his friend, when I get my wife upset, she yells at me. When I get her really upset, she gives me the silent treatment. Isn't it worth the extra effort? So the first time she ever yelled at me was on a Friday afternoon. We had a house full of guests coming, and I decided that I was going to go fix a leak in the house. I went up on the roof and I turned off the water. There's no water in the house. She's cooking for Shabbos with a pile of guests coming, my guests. And she's cooking, and all of a sudden she starts yelling up, David, did the water get turned off? So I said, yeah, I'm fixing that drip in the back room over there. She goes, turn on the water, turn on the water, turn on the water. She was absolutely in a panic. The other time she yelled at me was when I lost our passports on the day of our trip to visit her parents. Right, which you could imagine is probably. So it turned out they weren't lost. Turned out we didn't even have them. I couldn't find her mine and her Israeli passports. I couldn't find our passports. Our kids had them, and we didn't have them. She went checking in the closet. I was at early check-in, and she went checking in the closet. She's looking around. How could you have lost it? She's trying to stay calm. And she gets back to us. She said, we don't have Israeli passports. We don't have Israeli passports. She was just so upset. The last time, the third time was when I had taken some medication, which apparently I wasn't supposed to. I had a very bad allergic reaction, and I had to go to the emergency room because my breathing apparatus was closing down. So she was also a bit perturbed with that. But those are the only 3 times. So you know, what are you giving me an excuse to get upset for? If you wouldn't be an imbecile, I wouldn't be getting upset. Now, who's at fault? So we're both at fault. You could, and I've said this to my kids. My kids come in with a fight. He hit me. She hit me. She took my thing. You're both wrong. You're both no good. That's possible. Not only is possible, it's probable. Right? You're both at fault. You shouldn't have done it. You shouldn't have reacted. You shouldn't have overreacted. You shouldn't have reacted back. Finish. That's a possibility in life. So you know, you have to know that you are at fault, but it doesn't mean just because you're at fault, the other person's not at fault. That's a rule. But in marriage, at the end of the day, you are at fault. Bottom line, you're at fault. Just apologize and get on with life. Okay. So yesterday we wanted a couple more points that we wanted to finish. We were speaking yesterday about material possessions, and then take a look at Perek Lamed Beis, Pasuk Lamed Beis, 32. It's on page 914, and it's verse 32. This is at the end of this deal that Moshe Rabbeinu was cutting with the Bnei Gad and the Bnei Reuven and part of the tribe of Manasseh. And eventually when they present themselves and they're presenting their argument, and they accept the argument, they even repeat over what they're going to do. Now look very precisely over here. It says in Pasuk 32, page 914, 9 lines from the top. 8 lines from the top. Nachnu na'avor chalutzim. We will go at the forefront. How does he translate that? The vanguard again? In 32, how does he translate? We will cross over armed. Oh, armed, sorry, that's better. Chalutzim means, in this case, they also use chalutz as the people who go ahead. Lifnei Hashem, before God, Eretz Canaan, into the land of Canaan, v'itonu achuzos nachal asenu me'ver l'Yarden, while keeping our portion on the other side of the Yarden. So again, as we explained yesterday, this removes the fear that Moshe Rabbeinu has. In other words, you're gonna start making deals over here, and you're going to show resistance to go into the land of Israel. You're going to spook the people. We've been through this once. We've done this dance once before. We're not interested in doing it again. So they say, no. It has nothing to do with fear. We'll prove it to you. We'll go ahead of everybody. We'll go in armed. We'll fight the war. We'll lead the war. And then we will maintain our inheritance in the land and the other side of the Yarden. Now, I want you to pay attention carefully. The land of Eretz Yisrael was originally called the land of Canaan. Canaan. What is the root? What word in Hebrew is the land of Canaan connected for? There's a Hebrew word called hachna'ah. Hachna'ah means submission. The land of Israel is a land of submission. That means everybody who's been in Israel submits. Who you submit to, not always necessarily the right person or the right deity. However, if you pay attention to history, remember we've mentioned before that in the ancient world, Egypt was the seat of immorality. There was immorality everywhere, in the land of Canaan as well. Egypt was the San Francisco of the day, right? That was the seat of immorality. There's plenty of immorality elsewhere. Sodom was the seat of cruelty. There was cruelty in other places as well. Sodom was the most cruel. The land that was the most deep-seated, what's called, even in the classic writings, the shoresh, the root, the source of idol worship was the land of Canaan. Now, there's no coincidence there. There's no coincidence in the land of submission. That was the land that was heaviest into idol worship, because idol worship is a form of submission. You're just misguided and mischanneled. You're submitting to the wrong deity, but it's a land of submission. The Jewish people are going to go into the land of Canaan. There's no coincidence over here, because what is the job of the Jewish people going to be? You've got to submit to the will of God. That's in the land of Canaan more than anywhere else. That is one of the explanations given for, first of all, if you walk anywhere in the old Jerusalem, for sure in Old Jerusalem, within a square mile of the old city, you've probably got a temple representing every religion in the world over there. I mean, you got everything in it with a couple of square miles over there, right? Why do they have to come to Jerusalem? Why could they go to Denver? Denver's a great place to submit. No, it's not in Denver. Denver people are busy rollerblading and going out to the mountains and smoking pot. That's what's happening in Denver. Why can't you go in? Why not? Because it's a land that lends itself to submission. Why is it that so many Baal Tshuvas come to Israel? They become Baal Tshuvas in Israel. What happened to that? What happened? You think it's just a coincidence because you happen to meet some strange rabbi who tapped you on the shoulder while you were at the Kotel, brought you out? Why did it happen to you somewhere else? The answer is that it's a place that lends itself to submission. That's the land of Canaan. Now, notice what they say when they go into the land of Israel. It says, we will go in lifnei Hashem, before God. What's that got to do with anything? How did God get into this? We're cutting a deal over here. So what's this got to do with the deal that we're making? Sell me your car. Okay, I will buy the car for 6,000 shekels, and I'll get in before Hashem into the car, and I'll drive it off. How did Hashem get into the picture over here? Where did Hashem get into? It's bad enough I got into the used car. What's Hashem getting in with me for? Right? He knows not to trust you. You know what's going on here? How did Hashem get into the picture here? The answer is like this. The answer is exactly what we said. What is the purpose of Eretz Yisrael? What is the purpose of Eretz Yisrael? The purpose of Eretz Yisrael is a Jew living in Israel. You have to be in Israel, lifnei Hashem, in the presence of God. If you're in the presence of God when you live in the land of Israel, then Israel produces and it gives you all that the Torah promises. If you're living in Israel, not in the presence of God, if you're living in Israel and you're going to take part in a parade near the old city, on a parade of abomination right outside the walls of the old city of Yerushalayim, you're not living lifnei Hashem. So what are you being in Israel for? You may as well get out of here. Israel doesn't need you here. And Israel's not doing anything for you. To the contrary, you're playing with dangerous equipment. In a place of the greatest holiness, you're behaving as unholy. So go behave as unholy as you went in Denver. Go to Kansas City, go to San Francisco. They'll do it in Israel. And therefore, if you're in Israel, it's got to be lifnei Hashem. And I'll tell you something even more remarkable. You see, there's a statement in the Talmud that says Moshe's face was like the face of the sun, and Yeshua's face was like the moon. Moshe's face glowed like the sun. Yeshua's face glowed like the moon. Right? Statement in the Gemara, like all statements in the Talmud, there's inestimable depth to it. Try to understand it at one level. What does that mean? So obviously, the moon gets its light from the sun. Joshua was Moshe's main disciple. If he's the moon and Moshe Rabbeinu is the sun, there's no coincidence. He's reflecting the light of his Rebbe. Moshe Rabbeinu is the Rebbe, he's the sun, Yeshua is the moon, and Joshua, he reflects the light of the sun. That's what the moon does. The moon reflects the light of the sun. If there's a barrier between, let's say there would be clouds covering the moon, so the moon would not be able to reflect the light of the sun because there are clouds covering it or whatever it is that could cause, let's say, well, clouds don't go that high, but let's say there's a space shuttle blocking the moon. Probably doesn't happen either. But let's say there's somebody put up a mechitza between the sun and the moon, somebody very from, right? They made a really high mechitza, right? So it's blocking between the sun and the moon. Okay, so then the moon can't reflect the sun's light. Now, what was the role of Moshe Rabbeinu? What did Moshe Rabbeinu do? What's his main role when you think of him in terms of what he's done for Jewish people? What is it? What is Moshe Rabbeinu? What do you associate? The first thing you associate with Moshe Rabbeinu for what he's done for the Jewish people is what? Given the Torah, exactly correct. Hear what Jason said? He's given the Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu gave us the Torah. Not only that, the Torah is called in the verses, it's referred to as Torahs Moshe. Zichru Torahs Moshe. It's the Torah of Moshe Rabbeinu. The lawgiver. Moshe Rabbeinu gave us the Torah. What did Yeshua do? What did Yeshua do? What's the most significant thing he did? What's that? Amalek was one of the things he did. Say what? You're right. But the most prominent thing he did, he brought the Jewish people into the land of Israel. Moshe Rabbeinu dies, Yeshua takes over, splits the Jordan River, and he goes into the land of Israel. So at a certain level, Moshe Rabbeinu reflects the Torah, and Yeshua reflects the land of Israel. Right? Now you see the connection. The same way that Yeshua's light is only to the degree that he reflects the light of his Rebbe Moshe Rabbeinu, to that degree, Eretz Yisrael is only Eretz Yisrael to the degree that it reflects Torah. You follow what I'm saying? Israel is Yeshua, because he's led into Israel, that's associated with him. Moshe Rabbeinu never went into Israel. Moshe Rabbeinu is the sun. To the degree that the moon reflects the sun, to the degree that Yeshua reflects Moshe Rabbeinu, to the degree that Israel reflects the Torah, that's the degree that Israel is Eretz Yisrael, which is where we want to be. If Eretz Yisrael is not reflecting the sun, if Eretz Yisrael is not living with Torah, then frankly, you're better off not being in Eretz Yisrael. We're asked all the time, people ask all the time, should I live in Israel? Should I live in Israel? Should a Jew live in Israel? What's the answer to that? What's that? if you're going to be with Hashem. That means if a Jew says this, somebody says to you, listen, should I live in Israel or not? The answer is, well, what's the alternative? The alternative is Pittsburgh, okay? Where are you going to study more Torah? Where are you going to have a better marriage? Where are your children going to grow more? What's the answer? If the answer to that is Pittsburgh, so you go to Pittsburgh. If the answer to that is Israel, because you have a parnasa. Parnasa is you have a livelihood that's very important for marriage. And if you don't have a good marriage, then nothing's worth anything anyway. So you have a livelihood, you have a community, you have a place to learn Torah, you're able to grow, and you're going to grow as a Jew, and your family's going to grow as stable Jewish people. Good, live in Israel. But if you're going to accomplish that better in America, you're going to accomplish that better in any other country in the world, so that's where you go. Any other country in the world, that's what you would do. Because that becomes your job. Your job as a Jew is not to live in Israel. Rav Dessler says, he writes in Michtav Elio, where does Israel fit in from a Torah perspective? Where does Israel fit in? How does Israel, how much should I want to be living in Israel? So Rav Dessler says, Israel is one of the best pieces of equipment that God gave us in order to serve him. One of the best pieces of equipment. Now, do you use that piece of equipment? Depends. I have a very expensive piece of equipment at home. Very expensive monkey wrench at home. Extremely expensive. But I wouldn't use that monkey wrench if I was trying to fix a certain sink where the monkey wrench isn't going to help me. It could be a great piece of equipment, but it's not going to help me. It's only going to hurt me. To the contrary, it's going to break a hole bigger than I want it to. And then I'm going to be in even more trouble. So do I use this piece of equipment or not? Depends what you're trying to do. Depends where it's more suitable to use that equipment. That is where we have a split with the Zionist movement, whether it's the non-religious Zionist, the religious Zionist movement. We never take one mitzvah and turn that mitzvah into an ends in and of itself. There's no, somebody come along and say, we're the tefillinists. You ever heard of the tefillinist movement? That's me and Mr. Fogel. We're the heads of the tefillinist movement, right? Yeah, we're the tefillinists, right? We're all into tefillin. We're the tzitzitists. You know, we're the shatnezists, right? You know, they're all mitzvahs, but you don't take the one mitzvah and make that the mitzvah may be used as an ends or as a means in order to achieve an ends. You hear what Rav Dessler is saying. It's not me saying any of this. This is all what Rav Dessler says. Let me ask you a question. Is it a mitzvah to live in the land of Israel? Is it a mitzvah?
Yes.
Okay. So Alex, let me ask you a question. Yeah. Is it a mitzvah to shecht an animal? To slaughter an animal? Yeah. Well, I can prove it to you. When you shecht an animal, you say, Baruch atah Hashem v'gafon asher kiddushanu b'mitzvosav v'tzivanu ala shchita. You make a bracha. Now, gentlemen, I want to ask any of you. Anytime you shecht, yeah. Anytime you shecht. It could be it could be, I don't know. That I don't know. It could be go one for the whole line. That I don't know. But there's a mitzvah when you shecht it. You have to, I don't know. I've never been in a slaughterhouse, and I would bet, no, not yet. And I've never been in a slaughterhouse. But is there a mitzvah to shecht the cow?
Yes.
We make it, okay, there's a mitzvah to shecht the cow. Now, gentlemen, I'm going to ask you a personal question. How many of you put on tefillin this morning? All the hands go up. How many of you, after you left shul, then went and slaughtered a cow? Right, to fulfill the mitzvah of cowing, right? How many of you did that? Nobody? Not one of you slaughtered a cow this morning? How about yesterday? How about last week? You've neglected the mitzvah of slaughtering a cow? My goodness, I've never done it either. I've seen one chicken slaughtered once, and that was enough for me. That was enough. If I saw a cow slaughtered, I would not only I couldn't shecht the cow, I would very likely pass out if I saw it. Very likely pass out. I saw a chicken shechted, that was enough for me. At home, can't take the sight of blood. It has no purpose in use for you. Is it a mitzvah or it's not a mitzvah? It is a mitzvah. Okay. So the answer is there are two types of mitzvahs. Listen carefully because it's a Torah fundamental. There's what's called a mitzvah chiyuvis, a mandatory mitzvah. There's what's called a mitzvah kiyumis. It's not mandatory, but when you do it, you fulfill the mitzvah. So for example, tefillin is a mitzvah chiyuvis. Every Jewish male, every day of the week, other than Shabbos, you have an obligation to put on tefillin. What do you call it? To say Kriya Shema every day is a mitzvah chiyuvis. You have to say Kriya Shema every day by a certain time. 2, shecht a cow is not a mitzvah chiyuvis. You could go your entire life without slaughtering a cow. If you want to eat kosher meat and you want to have some cow, then you have to shecht the cow, and at that moment it becomes a mitzvah. But you don't have to shecht the cow. No obligation to shecht the cow. Okay? Now, is it a mitzvah to live in the land of Israel? That is a dispute between Maimonides, the Rambam, and Nachmanides, the Ramban. One of them, I always get mixed up, which one says what? One of them is of the opinion that it is a mitzvah chiyuvis. You have an obligation to live in the land of Israel. You have an obligation, like you have in every other obligation. Put on tefillin, you have to live in the land of Israel. If you could, you have to live in the land of Israel. The other opinion is, it's not a mitzvah chiyuvis, it's a mitzvah kiyumis. You don't have to live in Israel. If you're living in Israel, you're fulfilling a mitzvah. But you don't have to live in Israel. You don't have an obligation. And that is what the contemporary poskim in our generation, previous generations, that is the opinion we abide by, that you do not have an obligation to live in the land of Israel. You have a mitzvah if you do live in the land of Israel. That explains how so many of the poskim, the Chafetz Chaim and Reb Moshe Feinstein and Vilgon, they never set foot in the land of Israel. Or if they did, they came for a visit. It's called a mitzvah kiyumis. Okay? Now, should you live in the land? I'll get you 1 second, Alex. Should you live in the land of Israel? If you are able to live in the land of Israel, able means that it will be better for your spiritual growth, then you should live in the land of Israel. We are not Israel thumpers, because for many Americans, many Westerners, if you're not American, you should be, but for many Americans, many Westerners, they ideologically would love to live in Israel. They live in Israel, and then they regret it because they didn't realize how difficult it would be culturally, financially, family-wise, and so on and so forth. And as the old saying goes, better to live outside of Israel and wish you were in Israel than to live in Israel and regret you made that decision. And that's a very difficult decision. It has to be made with your rabbi or with your mentor, whoever it is, and you have to be determined whether or not. But the fact that it sounds like a good idea doesn't mean that it's necessarily a good idea. And therefore a person has to be very, very, very careful before making such an idea. Yeah, such a commitment. Yeah, go ahead.
So it's only a mitzvah if you're able?
It's a mitzvah if you're able, and what determines able is something else. What determines able is something else. Yeah, am I able to do it well? I'm a Jew living in America. I'm financially able to move to Israel, but it's going to mean uprooting my children from the schools that they're well plugged into and studying well, and now hopefully finding schools from Israel. Is that worth the gamble? Is that worth the gamble? Maybe you need a Torah authority to tell you whether it's worth it or not. That's what I mean by are you able to. Able doesn't just mean financially. Are you going to be away from your family? Here, a young couple comes to move to Israel. They live in Israel. They have 4 children, all under about 2 weeks old, right? And now they have no family with them to help them out. Is that a good idea? Do you know what a strain that puts on the marriage? You know what a strain that puts on physical strain that puts on the wife? Is that really a good idea? Maybe you're better off living next to your parents as much as you have trouble getting along with them. Maybe you're better along living next to your parents so that you have an extra set of helping it, and so on and so forth. Those are the calculations. Okay? Very, very important, very, very important that a person does not behave irresponsibly in this area. Okay, let's take a look at another idea here. In Pasuk Lamed Beis, the very next Pasuk, and here we're going to see one of the more enigmatic characters that ever enters the pages of the Torah. So it says like this. Vayitein lahem Moshe livnei Gad v'livnei Ruvain. Moshe gives to the tribe of Gad, the tribe of Ruvain, v'lachatzi shevet Menashe, in part of the tribe of Menashe. Chatzi does not necessarily mean half, by the way. Chatzi in Hebrew, in modern Hebrew, it means half. What it really means is part of. Part of. It's like when you split a candy bar with your brother and you're the older brother, you'll get half and I'll get half. Those halves are rarely the same size, right? Depending on who's holding the candy bar, right? Yeah, it means you get part. And usually a very small part if you're the younger brother. That's the way it works. I came in, I think it was a Sunday night. It was a Sunday night. I think my wife was asleep. I came in late and I was hungry. So I reached in the refrigerator. There were 2 leftover pieces of dry white chicken from Shabbos. So I warmed it up. I sit down to eat these 2 pieces of chicken. My 10-year-old son comes in. He says, "I want some." I just didn't have feelings to argue with him. I say, "All right." Just then my 7-year-old son came in. He says, "I want a piece." I said, "Look, guys, I'm not going to fight with you. Here's a piece of chicken. You divide it up. Okay? Divide it up. I don't care what you divide it up." So I said, this wasn't my idea. I wish I could take credit for it. I said to my 10-year-old son, "Okay, divide it up into 2, and you choose which piece you want." So I remember the way they looked at me, because my 10-year-old, who was devious and conniving and always taking advantage of his brother, he looked at me, he gave me this kind of look like, "Oh, Dad, you've betrayed me." That was written. It was clear in his eyes it was clear. The 7-year-old just looking like he had this smile like, "Wow, this is neat," this is neat. So my 10-year-old stood there dividing up the chicken. They do not have scientific instruments that could have created 2 piles that were so equal, you would never ever be. I mean, he just stood there for 20 minutes, as a piece of cartilage, making these of dry old chicken. These are guys you can't get them to eat fresh chicken on shop. No, Daddy's eating now. They need their chicken. I don't have a head for it. I don't want to deal with it. You guys deal with it. But I learned. I think I heard that once at camp from a camp counselor. So Chatzi Shevet Menashe doesn't mean half. It means part of the tribe of Menashe. And what does he give them? Es Mamleches Sichon Melech HaAmor. He gives them the kingdom of Sichon, the Amorite king. Ves Mamleches Og Melech HaBashan, the kingdom of Og. Haaretz L'Areh B'Gvulos Aretz Sovet. Those are the lands he gave them. Now, this man Og, does anybody know where in Torah? I'll hold for a couple of minutes. I'll get to you. Does anybody know where in Torah we ever hear of Og the first time? Og Melech HaBashan. In Parshas Noach, the Medrash says that Og was on the outside of the Teva. He was the giant. The Gemara describes that when Moshe Rabbeinu killed him in the final battle a couple of parshas ago, Moshe Rabbeinu kills him. Moshe Rabbeinu is himself 10 amos tall. He jumps 10 amos, takes a spear or a hatchet 10 amos tall, and stabs Og in the ankle. Which means, Og's ankle is 30 amos off the ground, which is at minimum 45 feet. So that means that Og's ankle is about five stories off the ground. I once made a calculation that Og comes out to be about 4/5 of a mile tall. That's how tall Og. Okay, and Moshe Rabbeinu kills him by saying, Moshe Rabbeinu is intimidated. Why is Moshe Rabbeinu intimidated by Og Melech HaBashan? Because of the second thing that Og did. When's the second time we find Og appears in the Medrash? Anybody know? Remember when Avraham Avinu was told, the kings have captured your nephew Lot. The refugee from the battlefront comes and says, Avram, the kings have captured your nephew Lot. You better go save him. And Chazal say, who was that? It was Og Melech HaBashan. Og. Why did he want? Yes, he figured Avram will get killed, and he'll marry Sarah. Logistic problems of being 4/5 of a mile tall notwithstanding. Right? So Og decides that, now, Moshe Rabbeinu sees Og as a mountain. What's Moshe Rabbeinu intimidated by? He feels Og has some sort of merit. What merit does he have? There's some sort of merit that Og has that Moshe Rabbeinu is worried if I go to war with him. In other words, Moshe Rabbeinu sees himself as coming up to Og's ankles. He says, if I see, what merit does he have? Moshe Rabbeinu is worried about the merit that he was the one who came and told Avraham Avinu, by the way, your nephew was captured. And it was completely without the proper intent, but he's got some sort of merit there. And Moshe Rabbeinu is worried that merit will stand on his side. I won't defeat him. So God says, fight him. Don't be afraid of him. And the Gemara in Bracha says, Moshe Rabbeinu jumped up. Og lifted a mountain to drop it on the Jewish people. He lifted a mountain to drop on the Jewish people. Moshe Rabbeinu stabbed him in the ankle, and Og died. That's what the end of Og is. However, where does Og die? Og dies right here. Not in this parsha, right before the Jewish people go into the land of Israel. Let's make a calculation. If this man was around at the time of the Mabul of Noach, then he lived till Avram Avinu, then he lived till Moshe Rabbeinu and lived till the 40 years. Og was thousands of years old. According to, if that was him and that's him now, this man is hundreds, probably a couple of thousand years old. So the Medrash says, now listen to this. It's mind-boggling. The Medrash says, what did Og do that he deserves such long life? What did Og do? What merit did he have that he deserved such long life? And what was it that he did that he deserved to get killed? So there's a statement in the Medrash that says like this. Og went to Avram and Sarah, and he said to Avram and Sarah, the two of you are beautiful like a tree alongside a brook. You ever see these pictures? They have these birthday cards. They're what they call the soft. They're the real funny ones. Real funny birthday cards, like, hi, it's your birthday, you're an old fogey, and you open it up, you get punched in the face by a fist or something. Then they have these other birthday cards, what they call soft focus, thinking of you, right? They're thinking of you. It's very, the real sincere one. The real sincere, which to me makes no difference as long as the check is sincere. But the birthday card, yes, I also open up the card like you, and I open up the card, the first thing I do, let's see, what? Nothing in there? Not thinking of me? You're not thinking of me, and I don't care what you think of me. Don't think of me, just send the check, So they have these soft focus thing. What are they always a picture? Always a picture of a tree alongside a brook with a girl holding a bouquet of flowers and a horse. I don't know how the horse gets into the big one. That's supposed to be beautiful, right? The horse wandering, in the meadow, in the brook, in the tree. That's what they have on these. Always these guys. Okay, then you turn it over, and it costs you $4.95 for the card. So it's the greetings cards can make all that money. Okay. So the Medrash says, Og complimented Avram and Sarah. For that compliment, he merited long life. He complimented them. He merited long life. So why did he deserve to be killed? Because in the very next sentence he said, you're beautiful, the two of you are beautiful like a tree alongside a brook. For that you got long life. In the next sentence he added, but you don't produce fruit. Yeah. And not only oof, for that he got killed. For the shtach, for the dig, for the misuse of his mouth, that's why he got. So people always ask, what can I do? What mitzvah can grant you long life? If you build people up, compliment people, build them up, encourage people, that's the key to long life. If you rip people down, insult people, you hurt people, death. Mavis v'chaim biyad alasham. Life and death is in the hands of the tongue. That's what the Medrash says. That's why Og Melech HaBasham lives so long. Isn't that remarkable? One more point.
So that one compliment in that one sentence.
That's what the Medrash. That's what the Medrash says. That's what the Medrash says. Isn't that incredible? So again, it's worth being nice, right? It's just worth building people up. It pays other dividends as well, by the way. It pays other dividends as well. So it's always worth being nice. But here, Og Melech HaBasham, for a compliment, people are always wondering, what can I do? What insurance policy got? The best insurance policy. Build people up. And you see, the thing about it is, it doesn't cost you anything. You walk over to the guy and say, hey, that was a really good question you asked in class today. People love that. Everybody loves a compliment, even when you know people aren't sincere. Because you might think maybe they'll be sincere. Maybe they mean it. Just maybe they meant it. Right? We hang on to everything, every little thing. So a guy say, hey, that was a really good question. He said, hey, that was a really nice thing you did. Hey, I saw you daven with a lot of kavanah yesterday. Especially in a yeshiva like this, where that's hey, somebody saw me, somebody noticed, besides Hashem. Somebody noticed what a tzaddik I am. Right? Wow, you can make a person's day. And with women, we get a woman for a compliment. You literally change her day. Literally change a woman's day with a compliment. Ask anybody who's been married for any great length of time, like about 10 minutes. A compliment, change her, what do you call it? I've even done it because your wife, when you give your wife a compliment, she's likely to say one of two things. So I can say thank you, or what do you mean? And I say, hey, by the way, that supper last night was phenomenal. What do you mean? Right? That means you got it. Bring it on. There are French chefs that would be embarrassed to be near the steak, near the chicken you made last night. That sort of thing. They want, the more, the better. Not only that, I've even tested them. They're so sensitive to compliments. They're sensitive to criticism too, so you should never criticize. They're so sensitive that I've even tested my wife once in a while. When I'm in a mood, I'll do this. I'll say something, by the way, the kugel last night was phenomenal. Or I'll just mumble. So I say, by the way, the was phenomenal. She comes running in from the other room. What'd you say? What? She senses that. So sometimes you say, hey, where's the towel? Nothing. Can't hear you. Or can't hear. Where are my socks? On the other side of the house. Doesn't hear you. Oh, by the way, it was unbelievable yesterday. What? Comes running into the other room. Where are my socks? I'm telling you, it's like metal. I'm telling you, I'm not kidding. It's like metal to a magnet. It's like metal to a magnet. You compliment them, they never get tired of it. They never get tired of it. Absolutely. They never get. Jared Hill. They never get tired. They never ever get tired. That's the rule. Men also. Men like to show that we're. I'm beyond those things. Baloney. Read how to win friends and influence people. It works. I remember it works. It really works. It might be devious, and it might be for the wrong purposes. I once tried it in a bank. I had to extend my credit line. I think I had a limit of 6,000 shekels, and I wanted to go up to 10,000 shekels. Not a big deal. So I go into the bank and I say, talk to Yoram. He's always the guy in charge of the credit. His name is always Yoram for some reason. Okay, so I go over to Yoram, a man in his 60s. And Yoram is trying to be as unpleasant as it's possible, trying to can. And I sit down. And I said, hi, I'd like to extend my credit rating. So Yoram is like, okay, let me check your file. And I said, I mean, it must be. I mean, you have a tremendous responsibility just handling millions of shekels like this on a regular basis. Well, it's not that much. Yeah, I'll okay your credit thing. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it works. It works. It works. Like my wife even said to me, "That's not right." She's like, I came home and I told her I tried. She said, "That's not right." Of course it's right. What's right, Lane? You're the one spending my money. Why do you think I got to extend my credit rating? It's because you're the one using the credit card. It's not right. Right? It's right. It works. Now, again, should you be manipulative with it? That's something else. Obviously not manipulative. But it works at every time. I say a bus driver, well, I wish all bus drivers were like you. I've said this. You see the bus driver said, no, it's nothing. He's 3 feet taller. 3 feet taller. Right? I'm telling you, it works. It works. If you remember it, that's Og Melech HaBashan is an incredible medrash. Showing you one last point. Take a look at Lamed Beis, Mem Beis. Pasuk Mem Beis. Okay, so this discusses the various. Pick it up on 9:14. Last two words on 9:14.
Why is it specifically point out only a part of the tribe of Manasseh?
Because that's all it was. It was a part of the tribe of Manasseh went with them. A part of the tribe of Manasseh went. Yeah, just a part. It wasn't the entire tribe of Manasseh. A part of the tribe of Manasseh went with them. Okay. Now, bottom 9:14. Vayitain Moshe es Hagilad leMachir ben Menashe. Moshe gave the Gilad to this man named Machir. Vayeshev, he takes this land of Gilad on the other side of the Jordan River. The Yair ben Menashe, now Yair, the son of Menashe, Halach vayilkod es Chavosehem. He captured the suburbs. Is that how a Scroll translates it? They're villages, the outlying suburbs. Vayikra eshen Chavos Yair. He called them the villages of Yair, right? He called them the villages of Yair. He named them after himself. V'novach haloch vayilkod es Kenas. Novach went and he captured Kenas v'es Benosea and his villages. Vayikra la Novach bishmo. Now, take a look at Rashi. Rashi on the bottom last, it's on the right column, page 916. It says, Vayikra la Novach bishmo. So, law, normally, if you look in the pasuk, there's an asterisk in the text, because normally it would be a hard pronunciation. It would have a dot inside called a dagesh, and it should read Vayikra la. When there's a hey with a dot in it, it gets a harsher sound. La, Vayikra la, Novach bishmo. Grammatically, there should be a dot here, yet it's left out. According to our tradition, there's no dot. And therefore, when the Baal Koreh reads it, he reads it as Vayikra la, softly, Novach bishmo. It does not read Vayikra la, Novach bishmo. Okay? That's what Rashi points out. V'ra'isi biyasodo shel Moshe Adarjan. I saw in the writings of Rabbi Moshe Hadarshan, says Rashi, why doesn't it have a dagesh, an emphasis point? A dagesh means emphasis. Lefi shalon niskayim l'shem zeh, because this name that Novach had given the city did not endure. Lefichach hurafa, therefore it's soft. Shemashma medrosho kimolo. If it's soft, it means Vayikra la Novach bishmo. But it didn't. It never would. There was never a city called Novach, a place called Novach. It didn't last. The name didn't last. Okay, that is what Rashi says in the name of Moshe Darshan. So the commentaries say it's an interesting lesson the Torah is trying to teach you here. What was Novach time? Why would you call a city by your name? Why would you call a city by the name? Ego. Let's go easy on the guy. Let's say it's not because of ego. Let's say it's not ego. He's not an egomaniac. He's not a megalomaniac. It's the standard. What's that? Posterity. It's the standard human drive. I want to be remembered. So what did he do? Oh, the best way to remember: make a city, conquer a city. We'll call it Kaplanville, right? We conquered the city. We'll call it Kaplanville, and that'll be people will remember me throughout in the next generations because I got a city on my name. Didn't last. What's the Torah telling you? Things made out of stone does not last. That's not how your memory will be remembered. You're not going to be lasted. We even have a puzzle that says, Ve'anshe Hashem kelo hayu. Famous men in history, it's as if they never existed. It's as if they never existed. Who even knows who Michelangelo was? Who even knows who Napoleon was? They're gone, buried. Lincoln, Washington, Jefferson. Okay, made some money. Other than that, nothing. Nobody knows who they are. You want to be remembered. You're not going to be remembered by building sticks and stuff, by stone and mortar, brick and mortar, and that'll be your memory. That doesn't last. That's what the Torah is telling you. You want to be remembered, you will be remembered by your actions. Everybody remembers the Chafetz Chaim. Everybody remembers the Vilna Gaon. Everybody remembers Rav Chaim Ozer. Everybody remembers Rav Moshe Feinstein. Not because they built a city. None of them built any cities. They built themselves. You build yourself, then people are going to remember you. You build yourself. That's your memory for posterity. Not building cities of stone. That's what the Torah is telling you. All right, gentlemen, have a good Shabbos.